Welcome to part one of the second coaching session focused on increasing educator diversity. In this webinar, we will walk you through some strategies for interpreting educator workforce data that you collect and explain next steps for you and your team. It will be helpful for you to have two things on hand to participate fully in this webinar. First, a copy of the guidebook, which we will be referencing throughout. This can either be hard copy or electronic. Second, a blank Word document queued up on your computer or a notebook and pen, as we will be asking you to engage in some activities that will require you to record responses for reference later. Feel free to pause the recording now if necessary to get those items.
Thank you all for joining us. Please see on the screen today's agenda. We will begin with quick introductions by your coaching team and a welcome from Dr. Shuana Tucker. We'll briefly review the last session, offer some guidance for how to engage with the self-assessment and unpack your findings. These activities will help you prepare for our next session together.
I'm Dr. Shuana Tucker, Chief Talent Officer at the Connecticut State Department of Education. I am so pleased to meet and work with all of you. My background spans the K-16 continuum, including the U.S. Department of Education and private sector. During the past 10 years, working in a couple of districts, I've been an active participant working to diversify the educator workforce here in Connecticut. While legislation encourages districts to develop a written plan supporting recruitment, support, and retention of minority educators, this work should be done despite the legislation, as it is critical for us to have diversity in our workforce. Know that this work is near and dear to me and vital for us to remain on the cutting edge of education. The Talent Office looks forward to supporting you, working with you, and we are excited about what we will accomplish together.
This session is brought to you by a collaborative team of technical assistance providers representing two different federally funded regional education projects: the Regional Education Laboratory Northeastern Islands and the Region 2 Comprehensive Center. The Regional Education Laboratory works in partnership with educators and policymakers to conduct and use research that improves academic outcomes for students. Education Development Center, or EDC, leads the REL, and I, Meg Cavan, am a researcher and technical assistance provider on EDC's REL team.
The Comprehensive Centers program is a federally funded network of technical assistance centers comprised of 19 regional centers serving clusters of states and one national center providing universal and targeted multi-state support to address common high leverage problems among states. The Region 2 Comprehensive Center serves the state education agencies and their regional and local constituents in Connecticut, New York, and Rhode Island. WestEd leads the Region 2 Comprehensive Center in collaboration with the Education Development Center and Mathematica. My colleague, Meg Cavan, is staffed on the REL Northeastern Islands and the Region 2 Comprehensive Center with my colleague, Erin Browder, and myself, Saroja Warner. The three of us work collaboratively with Dr. Tucker and her team at CSDE on this coaching project for increasing educator diversity in Connecticut. Next, you will hear from Cynthia Cassida, educational consultant in the Talent Office at the CSDE. Cynthia?
Thank you, Saroja. Hi, everyone. I am Cynthia Cassida, and I work in the Talent Office at the Connecticut State Department of Education. The next couple of sections were previously developed and presented by Kim Wachenhausen in the spring of 2020. In 2019, the governor signed legislation, Public Act number 18-34, requiring the state hire 250 new educators of color, 30% of whom are men. Each year, districts produce a written plan for increasing and diversity of their educator workforce. I would like to provide you with an overview of what we're doing across the state to meet those targets so that you can get a sense of the bigger picture that today's work is contributing to. In 2008, 35% of the student population were students of color. In 2019-20, the percentage of students of color has risen to nearly 47%. Although the diversity of Connecticut's educators is on the rise, unofficially 9.4% for the 1920 school year, it has not kept pace with the diversity of the student population. The gap continues to widen. In 2016, the State Board of Education implemented a 5-year plan ensuring equity and excellence for all Connecticut students. The plan issues promises to our educators, our students, and their families by creating opportunities within each of the CSDE offices to become intentionally focused and on identified priority goals. For the Talent Office, the goal is to recruit, support, and retain great teachers and leaders with a specific focus on increasing racial, ethnic, and linguistic diversity. Our problems to solve as a collective are the following: build bridges to attract and retain top talents to serve in Connecticut schools and districts. Use recruitment, the educator evaluation and support system, and professional learning practices to develop and enhance the talent pipeline of diverse, highly effective educators. Provide culturally responsive instruction through a deliberate focus on the instructional skills and wisdom required to meet the individual needs of students. Transform educator preparation programs. Recruit, develop, and retain highly effective school principals through highly quality pre-service training, induction programs, and continuous development opportunity. The CSD has committed to addressing this gap by setting an ambitious goal with a call to action for the CSDE districts and other educational partners to strategically design and implement recruitment and retention plans that will help to collectively achieve this goal. Legislation is a driver for action. Public Act 19-74, an act concerning minority teacher recruitment and retention, assigns some bold numbers for our schools and districts to be held accountable for meeting. For the school year beginning July 1st, 2020, and each school year thereafter, the Minority Teacher Recruitment Policy Oversight Council, in consultation with the Minority Teacher Recruitment Task Force, shall develop and implement strategies and utilize existing resources to ensure at least 250 new minority teachers and administrators, of which at least 30% are men, are hired and employed by local and regional boards of education. Examination of certification data in 2016-17, first-time certified educators of color reached 373, or 13% of the total number of certified educators for that year. In 3 years, that number rose to 430, or 16% of the total number of newly certified educators. Although we are certifying educators of color in excess of 250 goal number established by PA 19-74, that number is not appearing in our statewide data employment system for a variety of reasons. This prompted our examination of unconscious bias in hiring selection practices, which led to the development of our guidebook to support districts in their creation of a plan to specifically increase racial, ethnic, and linguistic diversity. The Talent Office plans to continue our drive to produce tools and resources aimed at increasing diversity with a specific focus on support and retention of educators of color.
Please see the screen for today's outcomes. Take a minute to read them to yourself as I read them aloud. Participants will review their demographic profile data and identify emerging patterns. Participate in a cycle of inquiry to analyze their findings and begin to unpack underlying assumptions. Prepare to complete the self-assessment tool and analyze results with your district teams.
Last time we met, we asked each district team to do some homework in preparation for the next coaching session. Complete 3 tools from the guidebook. Please pause the recording and make sure you have a copy of these 3 tools handy, either hard copy or electronically. If your team has not had an opportunity to complete them, please have the blank copies handy for reference as we review each one. Each tool in the guidebook is designed to move you through a continuous improvement process for identifying gaps in your talent system, assessing strengths and needs, identifying evidence-based strategies for addressing those needs, developing an action plan, implementing that plan, and engaging in ongoing assessment of progress. The tools provided in Appendixes 2 through 4 are designed to support you beginning the first phase, inform. The District Demographic Profile tool, Appendix 2, is where you display your school or district's data as a way to see the current talent pool. Did you have trouble getting the data needed to fill in the profile? If so, this is a challenge that should be addressed as part of your work to increase educator diversity. If you cannot access the demographic data that you need, you won't be able to define the challenge you're trying to address. How will you collect the missing data? Appendix 3, also designed to help inform your understandings of needs, helps you explore the hiring funnel. This tool helps you do 2 things. 1, identify weaknesses in your data collection system. You should be able to answer every question on the survey. For those you cannot, how will you get the information you need to be able to? Just like the profile data tool, blank spaces indicate a data collection need. How will you collect missing data? 2, it helps you draw a picture of how well your hiring funnel is achieving the desired outcomes. The lack of diversity among the educator workforce suggests a weakness in the hiring cycle. Mapping out what happens from the start of the application process to the actual hire will help you see when and why teachers of color fall out of the hiring funnel, or if they are even entering at all. Once you've completed Appendix 2 and 3, the next step is to analyze these data and make meaning of them. In other words, asking yourself, what does the data indicate about the diversity of our current teacher pool and possible challenges in our hiring funnel? Appendix 4, the data inquiry tool, is designed to help teams make statements or assertions about the data collected in Appendix 2 and 3. It is organized into 4 categories: individual observations, or the what do you see; team observations, that's the what do we agree is most important; inferences, what does this data tell us, and the information needed, or the what else do we need to know. Next, my colleague Meg will describe and model strategies for analyzing and making meaning of data you have collected thus far. Meg?
Thank you, Saroja. The next portion of this session will be dedicated to data inquiry. First to some structured practice in data interpretation, then to some guided reflection and supported teamwork to unpack our own demographic and hiring data. We're going to look at some sample teacher demographic data, but first I want to situate those data in context. The diversification of the educator workforce matters because it has general implications for issues of racial equity in the workplace. But the diversity of the educator workforce also matters because it has implications for an increasingly diverse student body. Research shows that all students do better when they're exposed to teachers of all races and ethnicities, and also that students of color benefit from being taught by at least one same-race teacher. Yet the teacher workforce across the country is far less diverse than many of the country's largest school districts. This is a sample of Appendix 2 that you did as pre-work for this session that uses data from a fictional district. I'm going to pause here for a moment to allow you to look at the data and jot down anything you notice. There's a lot here, but let me highlight 4 things that stand out to me. First, most classroom staff are white. This is true across grade spans. we can see that at least 80% of general education teachers are white, and teachers are whiter on average in elementary grades, where the proportion of general education teachers who are white is almost 90%. Interestingly, building administrators are more of color than classroom teachers. Perhaps unsurprisingly, we also see that educators of color are clustered in uncertified positions. 54% of non-certified staff are Black, and 27% are Hispanic, the highest proportions of any job category comprised of people of color. This challenge is situated in a long legacy of systemic racism that obstructs access to education and the labor market. Finally, note that there is no Hispanic leadership at the district level. Remember, in this district, more than half of students are either Black or Hispanic, and 65% are of color. Seeing this, what do you still want to know? Continuing with building our data interpretation skills, this is a sample of Appendix 3, which you also did as pre-work for this session. Appendix 3 walked us through the hiring process to see where key problem areas are for the hiring of teachers of color. I'll pause here also for 1 minute so we can look at this table. I'd like you to jot down anything you notice. So what do you see? This first pair of numbers tells us that the limited hiring of candidates of color to date is not a problem of qualified applicants. 83% of all applicants passed initial screening criteria, but this pass rate was actually higher for candidates of color at 90%. Instead, we see that the process breaks down at the interviewing phase. 62% of eligible candidates of color interviewed, while this rate was considerably higher among all eligible candidates. This form doesn't flesh out exactly why there are relatively fewer candidates of color who interview. They may not have been invited, or they may have been invited, but the interview failed to happen. We can also see that there's a leak in the pipeline at the offer stage, with 46% of interviewed candidates of color receiving an offer. And while the rate of offer was higher at 61% among all candidates. Candidates of color who are offered a position generally accept it, suggesting that if offers are made, it is possible to diversify the educator workforce in this district.
Thank you, Meg. Saroja is going to close the recorded session shortly by explaining the pre-work for our next coaching session. But before she does that, let's review some immediate next steps for you and your team. Number 1, if you have not completed Appendix 2, 3, and 4, please plan to do so as soon as possible. It would be helpful to schedule 1 or 2 team meetings within the next couple of weeks for the team to complete the team observations section from the data inquiry tool, which is found in Appendix 4. As a reminder, questions to explore as a team are here on this slide. Number 1, do your data tell you what you need to know about the diversity of your educator workforce? What information might be missing? What protocols are being used in recruitment and hiring? Who participates in the hiring process, at what stage, and in what ways? How might potential candidates experience the hiring process? At what point on the hiring process do people of color fall out of the running, right, of the candidacy, if they even enter at all? Once completed, each person should individually work on Appendix 5, Sections 2, 3, and 4. I will pause the recording and make sure, and while you make sure that you have a copy of Appendix 5 handy, as Saroja will explain, what the next steps are about that tool and what you should do in preparation for the next session.
Thanks, Erin. Session 3 will be a synchronous virtual consultancy with each district team. The consultancies are designed to guide the team through an examination of your self-assessment ratings, that's Appendix 5, in order to identify 2 to 3 areas of focus for the next 5 years. To prepare for the consultancy, we're asking you to please complete sections 2, 3, and 4 of the self-assessment tool, Appendix 5, and to do that on your own. The self-assessment is organized in 4 sections: organizational culture, talent needs and hiring goals, attracting and recruiting educators of color, hiring and selection of educators of color. When rating each item, please list evidence to substantiate each rating. In the absence of evidence, please choose one, not at all. No evidence means you can't claim it's happening. After you've completed the self-assessment tool on your own, we will schedule a consultancy with your team to facilitate a calibration session. During the consultancy, session number 3 in this coaching series, we will facilitate a conversation designed to help your team identify areas where there is consensus and areas where you have differing understandings of how your district works. Please remember, before you complete the self-assessment, your ratings, while informed by data, will also be influenced by perceptions and interpretations. Each member of the team will be identifying ratings informed by their own perceptions and interpretations. For these reasons, it's important that each person identify evidence to substantiate your assessment or your rating for each item as you complete the self-assessment tool. Through the consultancy, you will calibrate ratings and begin to identify priority areas. But let's not get too far ahead of the process. We'll cross that bridge in due time. For now, you've got homework.
Thank you to each of you for engaging with us through this medium. While we would so much rather be with you in person, we're grateful to have this opportunity to continue this work virtually. We look forward to connecting with each of your teams in greater depth in the coming weeks. In the interim, please don't hesitate to reach out to any one of us. Our email addresses, as you can see, are all listed on the screen.